Do you watch British social realism films? If so, why?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do watch British social films such as I've seen Four Lions. I've seen
Why?
because uh, because I do like the concept of the film. It's very interesting.
What kind of issues would you want to see dealt with?
Um, I would like to see something different in British social films, such as themes such as drugs, sex, and many other things are very common in British social research. So something different will be good.
What kind of main character would you relate to?
Um, Someone like Tom Hardy,
Uh,
for example. I think he would do very well in British social film because he's got the style and everything. So yeah.
What's your opinion on domestic violence?
Well, with domestic violence, I personally think that it's extremely harsh, and it should be dealt with as soon as possible.
If you were getting abused by your parents, what would you do?
I would call NSPCC and
Very good. Okay,
I
so
do
what
that.
do you think about this synopsis? 15-year-old girl is abused by her father, but she keeps it to herself. The pain gets bigger, the scars get worse. She gets pregnant.
I think that's a very very good synopsis. Um,
Thank you, David.
Thank you very much.
Do you watch British social realism films?
No,
Why?
because that's not my favourite type of film.
Okay. What kind of issues would you want to see dealt in films?
Well, if I did watch that type of film, then I'd like to see everyday issues dealt with, because then we can relate more to it. Stuff like teenage pregnancies, abusive stuff, drugs, alcohol, stuff like that.
What do you think of an abusive father?
I think it's bad, because you shouldn't really have an abusive father. You should have a father that loves you and takes care of you.
How would you react to strong domestic violence?
What if I was being abused?
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't tell anyone because I wouldn't know really what to do, and I don't really know. It's so hard.
Okay. What do you think of this synopsis? 15-year-old girl is abused by her father, but she keeps it to herself. The pain gets bigger, the scars get worse. She's pregnant.
Yeah, it's a good synopsis. It sounds very deep and emotional, and if you do it well, I think it'll be very good.
Thank you, Sophie.
Thank you.
Do you watch British social realism films? If so, why?
Yeah, I do, and I watch them because they interest me, because they show me like different age ranges, and they show me like a lot about British people.
Okay. What kind of issues would you want to see dealt in British social realism films?
Showing more a lot of like different ethnicities, and because they're not just always British people in this country.
Okay. What do you think of an abusive father?
I feel like it's portrayed like quite well, because it does happen in this country, and it's shown that it happens everywhere.
Okay. How would you react to a strong domestic violence?
I don't really know. It was probably quite well, because it's like it happens in everyday life. It's happening at the moment, so it's just showing what happens around you.
What is your opinion? Oh no, you don't answer that, so it doesn't matter. If you were getting abused by your parents, what would you do?
Probably call social services.
Okay. What do you think of this synopsis? 15-year-old girl is abused by her father, but she keeps it to herself. The pain gets bigger, the scars get worse. She gets pregnant.
I feel that she should be able to open up to someone, even though it's extremely hard. I feel that by keeping it in it, she's making it worse for herself.
Okay. Thanks, Pamela.
Go.
Do you watch British social realism films, and if so, why?
Yes, I do, because I think like films like Adulthood and Kidulthood, they relate to young people like us, because kind of what like the society's kind of what we live in as well. So I don't know, it's fun to watch, I suppose.
What kind of issues would you want to see dealt with?
Violence, gang violence, rivalry between gangs, which could be from like racism and yeah.
What do you think of an abusive father?
I don't think any child should go through an abusive father. If so, they should like contact someone or something, because I know children, if they have an abusive father, it's like they're too scared to say anything, and it's sometimes it can lead to really bad stuff. Maybe the child committing suicide, something. I really don't agree with it.
How would you react to a strong domestic violence?
Personally, I think if it happened to me, I'll go straight away to someone and tell them, and I would make sure I remove myself from that situation immediately.
Okay. What kind of main character would you relate to?
I don't know what you mean.
Okay, don't worry. What do you think of our synopsis? A 15-year-old girl is abused by her father, but she keeps it to herself. The pain gets bigger, the scars get worse. She is pregnant.
I genuinely like it because it's something that happens and it needs to be enforced more so people understand that stuff like this does happen, and it's good that you're showing it.
Okay, thank you, Molly. Do you watch British social realism films, and if so, why?
Yeah, sometimes I do. I like watching them it's just so realistic, and in a way it kind of impacts you as well, because you just see how, some films are just so happy and so excitable and so fantasy-like, and then sometimes you get those really good films and it's really gripping and interesting because it's real life and you can sometimes relate to it.
Okay. What kind of issues do you want to see dealt with?
Pardon?
What kind of issues would you want to see dealt with?
Issues. I suppose in the media now in films now there's like most of it covered really. I suppose abuse and stuff like that could be a real issue to just expand on. Maybe about the psychoanalysis of people and stuff.
Okay. What do you think of an abusive father?
I suppose it's really quite tricky to say in films, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you obviously if it relates to that person specifically, it is really quite painful to see that because you wouldn't expect it. And an abusive father, it's even more painful because it's your father. Come on.
Okay. How would you react to strong domestic violence?
I suppose it would be really uncomfortable to watch. But at the same time, if it's telling the story, if it's supposed to be helping the story go along, I suppose it works.
If you was getting abused by your parents, what would you do?
I don't know. I suppose call Childline.
Okay. What do you think about our synopsis? 15-year-old girl is abused by her father, but she keeps it to herself. The pain gets bigger, the scars get worse. She's pregnant.
I think that's really quite a good story because it can show like her detriment and what she went through, and eventually what she will be going through with her child, and if she's going to be the same, if she's going to go down the same path of her parents. It sounds like a good storyline. It's something that is really quite true and can really relate to a lot of people, and in some ways help people too.
Okay, thank you.
Action.
Do you watch British social realism films, and
Yeah.
if so, why?
Yes, I do, and because I believe that the actual plot of the story adapts to people around me in their lives. So I think that it's quite interesting to watch.
What kind of issues would you want to see dealt with?
Drugs and sex.
What do you think of an abusive father?
Oh, that's actually quite good, you know. It will be very interesting to watch. That can make a really good movie, funny movie.
If you were getting abused by your parents, what would you do?
Nothing. I'd probably tell the police, but then I couldn't really do anything because I'm getting abused.
Okay. What do you think about this synopsis? 15-year-old girl is abused by her father. She keeps it to herself. The pain gets bigger, the scars get worse. She is pregnant.
It's quite sad. I don't know, that's a really sad story.
Okay, thanks.
Do you watch British social realism films, and if so, why?
Yeah. Because the storyline and the themes behind British social realist films are a lot more deeper and have a lot more meaning to them.
Yeah, they show real life events, even if they exaggerate a bit within the film, they still show them as Hollywood films don't really.
What kind of issues would you want to see dealt with?
What's happening now? Underage drinking, underage sex, everything.
Racism, gang violence, knife crime, stuff like that.
What do you think of an abusive father?
That would make a really good idea to a very social realist film, because that's something that's happening every day in society.
If you was getting abused by your parents, what would you do?
Well, it's easy to say what you would do. Probably now in our situation you say call the police, but when it's actually happening, I don't think you'd actually know
You
what
don't really
to do.
know what to do.
If it was actually happening.
Stop with it. What do you think about the synopsis? 15-year-old girl is abused by her father, but she keeps it to herself. The pain gets bigger, the scars get worse. She is pregnant.
It's a pretty good idea to,
Yeah, it sounds like you can do a lot with
a
that.
lot with that, yeah. Add a bit more.
Yeah.
Good story.
Thanks, Cameron. Thanks, Abdullah.
Do you watch British social realism films, and if so, why?
Yeah, but what do you actually mean by Britain social?
I watch it as well, just for the record. And it's films that focus on Britain and how it's portrayed through locations and that kind of thing.
Oh.
It shows a gritty side to, like American films. They don't show that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, I get what you mean. Like stuff like kidhood, adulthood.
Yeah, they're
Well,
gritty.
yeah.
You see that whole thing.
Alright, cool. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, we watch it because of those reasons and how it. There's a more developed storyline in them, whereas films like Avatar kind of focuses on the whole it being amazing and looking good and that high concept ideology.
I don't like Avatar. I like Britain film.
What do you think of an abusive father?
Pardon?
An abusive father.
Well, in the actual film, it'll be pretty good because if you think about it now in society, most people don't really have fathers. Like their parents are always divorced and stuff like that. And like most films, they do include things like that, and it shows them how they've been brought up with their childhood and stuff like that. Like how they can be.
Yeah, but again, agreeing with Govin, I think it'd be a really good idea because it adds another dimension to the whole story and just makes it. Some people may relate to it, some people may not, but it'd be interesting to watch to see, especially if you choose like an ethnic minority. If you focus on that, I think that you could have a really good storyline because other people looking outside on that will be able to look in and say, oh, this is how they use this and gratifications theory kind of thing.
If you was getting abused by your parents, what would you do?
Well, because we're Asian and the stereotype behind that is that we have to take it and all that, but if most probably just live with it, but I'd have someone to talk to, obviously, like a friend, but I wouldn't go to the, what do they call it? Social services, NSPCC now.
Well, to be honest, my opinion is like, yeah, it's really stereotypical, but I'm not saying my parents don't abuse me, but I've seen people that have been abused by their parents, and it has reflected their childhood quite a lot. You can see they're quite disturbed children. They're not really all there and just
angry.
Yeah, they sort of do things that are stupid, like end up in prison and stuff like that. So that'll be a good storyline.
What do you think about the synopsis? 15-year-old girl is abused by her father. She keeps it to herself. The pain gets bigger, the scars get worse. She's pregnant.
I think it's a good synopsis, but it gives away a bit too much, especially with the final bit that she is pregnant. Because I think that's the kind of thing you need to leave right at the end of the film, because it gives already from that I could probably come up with a storyline already. It gives away too much and doesn't really set up that whole mystery thing, I think. But yeah,
that storyline is very typical. Like you see a lot of films about that sort of stuff.
It's a synopsis. It's supposed to be.
And I don't know what that means. But
like the blurb in the film.
Yeah, but I think you should do one that involves two children, probably a boy and a girl, which shows like both emotions. So it's not only sexist, like bias, not only showing girl sides, so it shows both sides, and like the girls be able to see what the boy side's like, boys be able to see what the girl side's like.
Okay. Thank you.